Welcome to the Clearly Well podcast. I'm Elizabeth McKeon, a board-certified psychiatric mental health and addiction recovery nurse. This podcast aims to bridge the gap between mental health and substance use discussions, fostering understanding and empathy while reducing stigma. Join us as we amplify the voices of those with lived experiences, creating a non-judgmental space for their stories to be heard. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the Clearly Well podcast, and we're going to be in part 2 of Todd Davidson's story. Excellent story of recovery. And welcome, Todd. Thank you for coming back.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here and be able to tell this second part.
Yeah. So this is good stuff.
The redemption.
Here we go. So as we left off last time.
Well, this is where I started a MAT program. I started taking methadone.
Okay, so let's talk about what MAT stands for. So there's a couple of acronyms in recovery world that help folks get off of alcohol use disorder and substance use disorder. You're speaking about methadone. We talked a little bit in the previous podcast about buprenorphine. And then there's another one used for opioid use disorder and alcohol use disorder that's naltrexone. So you're going to be speaking to the methadone piece of MAT.
Right. And the methadone piece for me was pivotal. It really, once I got it into my system, I started noticing I would still try to go use a little bit, and I would notice I couldn't feel the antagonist. I couldn't I could not feel anything. I didn't have any of the euphoric feeling. I was able to get a job. I was able to start, and it was in a little place. I went from this big, like, I'm a project manager. This is what I do, to I was working at a tire shop, but I was getting paid, and I was able to afford my methadone every day. I was able to go back and forth from where I was living in South Carolina to Columbia to go there to get it. Started seeking a little counseling there. And then my father passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. It was, I believe when he passed away, it really hurt my mother, and my mother left South Carolina and moved back to Northeast Georgia, where he had been, and where I have two sisters. They were living. And at first, that was still my lifeline. Now, during this time, too, I had gotten a divorce. I was divorced. I didn't even go to the hearing. I just got 4 boxes of my stuff mailed to me down there from FedEx. And
okay, so when she made that boundary with you back when you came home from that first treatment, she was pretty done when she kind of found out the reality of what was going on.
So when they were basically, I had nowhere to live. That after all that had happened up in Ohio, she met me at the bus station, and that was the last time I ever seen her.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that happened, but it sounds like it was all going in the way it needed to for your change. Yes,
it went in the way that it needed to. I spoke to her a few times on the phone, and after that, she was able to say no more, because I knew her so well. I knew what words I could use and what I could do to keep that lifeline.
Right.
But she had found enough courage and got brave enough to say, it's not going to happen anymore. And that was one of the first defeats I felt. And for the longest time, all that stuff was her fault. And all that was her family. And how dare her stepdad get her to go to this Al-Anon? How dare her want to see somebody get better? How dare her, now in reality, God, what a victory. What a victory. And I do know through some other friends, she has moved on, had children and all this. And see, during that time, I didn't want children. I told her, we're not going to have any children. That wasn't fair to her, because that wasn't the beginning when I told her we would to the end game when I took that away. So she's been able to have that. She's been able to have a marriage. She's been able to advance her career. She's been able to do those things that I would have held her so far back, and no telling. I know I'd be dead. I know, because I knew that I knew how to do that.
You were down that path.
Right. But stayed single, and for the longest time, for a very long time. But that victory's coming here soon, so to be able to tell you about. So my mother left, and that was my one last little lifeline, manipulative thing that I could do. Well, I was living in squalor. Like, even though I was still trying to work, I'd also started trying to weekend warrior again on the methadone, crack cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was getting, and I thought I had it under control, because on Fridays I would get paid. I would go keep enough money to buy gas, food. Of course, my mom was still paying all the bills down there. So my gas, my food, and then pay for my methadone, and then I could go spend the rest on crack. So
right.
I would sit there and I would do crack all day all evening Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday recover, go to church, put on this little persona, well, I ended up of course that fell off, and couldn't go to work, miss Monday, miss Wednesday, miss all these things. And I got through that PTI, that pretrial intervention. So they released me. I didn't have anything else. So I take off to Northeast Georgia. I'm still on the methadone program. Now, I left that crack thing behind. There was no crack there. I got to Northeast Georgia, and I said, well, I remember asking around. I was like, was there any crack here? And they said, no, we can get some cocaine. So I got some cocaine, and I remember doing it, and it was such a rush that it scared me. I thought I was about to die.
Okay, so that's the first time you've said that.
Yeah, no, I remember laying there in that bed, and it was I'd never experienced it off crack. And I was using crack intravenously. I wasn't smoking it. I was using it. So I thought the cocaine, I broke it down different. I did think, but it scared me to the point to where I said, I will never do cocaine or crack ever again in my entire life. It scared me.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm going to die. Well, also I was still I was able to get in a methadone treatment in Northeast Georgia, able to go back and forth, was able to get a job, was able to do things. So now I'm just kind of floating between that. But then I came in some money off of a 401k that I had. I didn't realize I had it. And now I went, I'm going to cash this in. Well, I cashed it in. And also I was on a taper to come off the methadone. I got to Northeast Georgia. There wasn't really any pills or heroin or anything. And I felt like I didn't ever really want to ever go back to the opioids. I could play the tape and knew like what it brought me to and what I didn't want to be a part of. But I was also one of those people too in the Northeast Georgia area. The drug, they really have an issue with methamphetamine.
Yes, we sure do.
So I was at that point. I was one of those that said, I'm not a meth addict. I'm not going to do meth. Meth is dirty. Meth is made in a barrel somewhere or made in a Gatorade bottle over here, because I'd seen it done.
Right.
I'd watched it happen. And I remember even during my addiction with the heroin addiction in South Carolina, I had some people that made it right in front of me, and they gave me some. And I remember pushing it out of the syringe in the kitchen and going, I don't do this. This is gross. They do that. Well, but
they're less than.
Yeah, look, I was still looking down.
Yeah,
I was still looking down like, that's gross. That's whatever. I don't do meth. Well, I went to work in a place. I was doing that taper. I came off of methadone. I was very unique when I came off of methadone. I stopped it at 80 milligrams, and I told myself, I was all the way up to 240 milligrams.
Okay.
I tapered it to 80. I learned I could skip doses on it. I really couldn't afford it and try to get to this job, because this job was a 12-hour job and me trying to jockey all this. So what I did is I took a week off work, and I said, I'm going to lay here in this bed and I'm going to kick this habit. I'm going to kick this methadone. I had heard these pretty rough stories about methadone. Still this day, it's kind of a running joke in my head. I'm like, am I ever going to get the withdrawals? I had a little bit of an upset stomach, a little bit of insomnia, but that was it. I think I mentally prepared myself so much for this. Like I knew, like what I kept telling myself was tomorrow, I said, tomorrow is going to be better. 2 days from now is going to be even better. I remember telling myself this. I remember going spiritually, crying out to God, if you will take this and let me not, I will never, ever, ever touch these opioids again.
Wow, it's powerful.
It was very powerful. It was a very powerful experience. I remember telling myself next week will be a better week. The week after that, next month. It's the first time I could see past 24 hours and not getting high. I was like, 3 months from now, my life will be changed. And it was.
Yeah.
I was doing well. I was working in this place, but I had no recovery to me. I didn't have any outside meetings. I didn't have a group. I didn't have those things that I need, that I understand that I need today.
In the clinical part of treatment with medication-assisted treatment, which is MAT, we really will only treat that way as long as it is paired with a recovery program of therapy. That is that continued piece of support.
Right. And I did, I told them that's what I was doing, but I really wasn't doing that.
Got it.
But I also found a point in my life where I said, hey, I might want to start dating again. Now, this is like 2017. But I'm not going to give my heart. I'm just going to do this thing. Well, I kind of started in a little bit here and there, but then I was introduced to methamphetamine. But I was introduced on the whole opposite spectrum of like what I'd always done. Remember, I was a drug user. I wasn't a drug dealer.
Okay.
So then what happened was this place I was working, there was a lot of people that wanted that drug. I found people where I was able to get it. And I said, hey, I can make this money here, make this money there. Oh, I might dabble in this a little bit. The next thing you know, I've done quit this job. Now
You're a dealer.
I'm selling drugs. It almost gave me a high too of like, ooh, these people want me around. These people are calling my phone. All these things were happening in my life. Like another thing of confidence, this like persona I had, like, oh yeah, I'm the guy that's got the thing.
You're the Mac Daddy.
I'm the Mac Daddy. I got you. I got your thing. I got what you want. But then I also built up some walls where then I became a little bit more of a tougher guy. I'm a bigger guy, but I've never been like a mean person or been
like a tough guy.
Yeah. Now I've got this tough guy persona. Like I'm now, I'll get there when I get there. You get what you get.
Got it.
So, but with that coming around, that lasted just a year or so because the county and the Appalachian Drug Task Force ran a full investigation on me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know about it.
You were famous.
I was famous.
In a bad way.
This time, I had another GPS put on my vehicle, but it wasn't through a company. It was a warrant. And I read through the discovery packet later. They said I was using counter surveillance techniques and stuff like that, and I was outrunning. I was doing things, and I was able to buy this stuff so cheaply, going to Atlanta and then bringing it back and selling it such a lucrative. I mean, I was making money, but I was also gambling and doing all these things. Not the money I had the same amount of money as I did when I was in my career.
Wow.
But everything went somewhere else. And I remember a very good friend of mine walking in my house and he says, "You're using it?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "It's okay right now." He says, "And you're using a needle?" I said, "Yeah." I said, because I tried to say too, I only use a little bit. I didn't like that. What some people like, if my eyes dilate, if I did certain things that happened with it, I didn't like that feeling that like I was just using it then to get through the day, stay up. That's how I was saying it. But I remember him telling me, he goes, "It won't last forever like that." He showed back up again, and I remember him standing in my kitchen and he goes, "What happened to my friend?" I'd went into a psychosis with it. I wouldn't throw my trash away because I thought that the DEA was going through my trash, so I was going to burn it, and I also had this infatuation with painting, like using an HVLP gun, which is like a car, and using like car paints and I was using them inside of a house with a respirator, like paint, like I don't know what was going on. I had painted everything that would stand still. It was like this, just I couldn't get out of it. I remember him walking in and all this stuff, and I would leave doors open, and there's no telling what was coming in and out of the house. And again, I'm living in squalor.
So it's interesting you talk about the psychosis that's brought on from methamphetamine. You may not know this about me, but I opened behavioral health for emergency department in Western North Carolina, and a large number of my patients were coming in with schizophrenia that was brought on from methamphetamine. I had a young guy, he was around 17 years old, who thought he had a RFID chip in his head. He was convinced. We showed him CT scans of his brain. I mean, it was incredible, the similar stories that each patient told that were identical. Like their psychoses were like identical sometimes, especially with the chip in the head, the paranoia that came along with feeling like they're being watched and people are after them and all brought on from this very dirty methamphetamine that we see in especially rural communities.
I would take my phone, all the electronics, which my mother was still paying for my phone bill and my tablet and all that, but I would take them in my vehicle and drive them like an eighth of a mile up the road and park because I thought like somebody was hearing through my phone. And I would walk back down. I never saw the anything that wasn't there, but sometimes I would like hear little audible things, but I think a lot of it was sleep deprivation, and a lot of it, because I always said, if I start seeing things, I'll quit doing this. Like if I have that moment like I had with the cocaine, I will never, ever do this. I had a really bad experience with mushrooms. I did them like one time. I did not like that. So I've had I was like, if that ever happens, like what happened with the cocaine and the mushrooms, I'll quit this. If I'll ever get really bad like I did on the opioids, I'll quit this. So it was like, well, so now I'm in this.
You almost felt like you had a certain set of standards that came along.
Yeah, because I would get sober. I would go through little like rehabs. I would go do something. I would do something, and I would say, well, I'm not going to let my life get to that low again. But lo and behold, every time it got 10 times worse. Or I was good at this. Well, I'm not as bad as that person. I won't be doing that. Right.
They're less than.
So even in my early recovery, when I was like, well, I still didn't do that. So, or I didn't do that, or I didn't, like.
A lot of justification.
Justifying everything.
Yeah.
I was trying to justify everything. Everybody's recovery, everybody's drug use is so unique. Everybody's path to recovery is unique, but the end mark that we have is to live a life with purpose, and be a individual that can be I work with all the men at that place that I'm at now. I was supposed to be in a 9-month program, been there over 2 years now, right? And they brought me on as staff. And I tell all of them, take that label of drug addict. You are a father, you are a husband, you're going to be a husband, you're a son, you're a nephew, you're all these things that society tries to tell you you're not, and you are.
That's right.
You are. I'm so fortunate.
And I really adopt changed language in that I think that you as a survivor can say what you want. You can use the word addict all day long. Oh, I don't.
Okay.
I say, well, no, you can, because as another person with lived experience pointed out to me, she uses that word on purpose. She said, I get to say I was an abuser or an addict, and you can't take that away from me just because you've adopted changed language. And I said, okay. Right, I get it.
Right.
So, but I say substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, but I no longer try to correct anybody with lived experience what their experience is. And I really love her for pointing that out to me, because she says, we all joke around and say we break out in handcuffs. We're allergic to alcohol. Yeah. We break out in handcuffs or whatever. Ashley York said that one. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's your experience. You get to say it how you want.
Right. I have lived the experience. And I'm very blessed and very grateful that I made it through that experience, because now I understand that those things were a part of my life. They're a part of my testimony. They're a part of, maybe I can touch somebody else and they say, okay, well, we have this common ground, But look, I get it all the time now because I was that notorious person in the county I live in, and because I took the time, a lot of humility, now I'm able to walk through the streets and people say, "Man, you're great. We love seeing," and I'm just so humble when it comes. I'm just like,
yeah,
well,
you're famous for the right reasons now.
Famous for the right reasons.
That's right.
I'm so blessed today to get to go do it and to get to talk to people and get to help them, because everybody has a recovery in them. The only thing we cannot come back from is if we die in that recovery.
That's right.
That's the only thing. Everybody has that potential.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter how you got there. Even if it's like, I heard a guy who said his recovery was forensic recovery, which means he got clean in jail. And he said it doesn't matter if it's through religion, if it's through, however you get there, just get there, you know. There. All right, so now we're moving back. We're going back again.
So now, so on August the 2nd, 2019, the sheriff's department had a full investigation on me. I had went and picked somebody up. As soon as we crossed the county line, they started pulling me over at 10 o'clock at night. The person I was with had a substantial amount of methamphetamine on them. They took that methamphetamine and poured it into a glass, a big glass like you get from Quick Trip.
Okay.
And it was full of liquid and started dissolving it. It started dissolving. This whole time I'm trying to play stupid, just getting pulled over. My thing was I was going to get to a certain place on the road. I was going to get them to throw it out into the river. We can take that loss. We can't take what's this amount of drugs that's in here right now. But our sheriff's department, pretty good at what they do, they had the road blocked because they knew I was going to go. So I came to a stop, had the conversation with the officer. He said, you gonna let me search? And this ain't the first time this has happened, right? They were pulling me over. I was always getting one over on them all the time. They could bring the dogs out. You got a certain amount of time to get the dog there. We can play this game. It was a game to me. I said, well, I knew what was coming next. He wanted to bring the canine. Well, he knew the person that was in the vehicle, called them by their first name. I said, okay. And I said, well, you got a certain amount of time. He said, fortunately for you, we already got the dog here. I said, okay. Well, the dog went around, and then I played the game of, well, that dog could just be, I don't know what it means for that dog to indicate and say that it's indicating now you have probable cause to go inside the vehicle. So they ran that dog down through there, and that dog was running, sniffing, and when it would get to my passenger door, it was total body change, sit down, stop, point. They write that too, but I could see it. They said, do you see that? And I said, yes, I see that. They said, that means that dog knows there's narcotics or something inside that vehicle. They said, now we have probable cause. It didn't take them long. They found it. They came up, turn your hands, and turn around. I said, okay, well, I can do this. I can get out. I can get a bond. I can get out. I'll figure out something. I still got mama. They take me to jail. I'd been up for a amount of time. I get to the jail. They put me in a cell. I'm hyperventilating. I'm doing things like now. I'm starting to come off of this. I'm starting to struggle. I said, well, where's my bond hearing or my arraignment? This ain't the first time I've been to jail. Where's my arraignment? Do this. We'll get out of here. Let me go call mama. Bond denied. What? Bond denied. It was weighed in at 1.8 pounds of methamphetamine. That's trafficking, the highest level of trafficking you can get. Conspiracy to commit felony. They threw charges on me. I met with an attorney. An attorney said these charges can max out at 40 years in the Department of Corrections.
Oh.
I went, what? Well, those weren't even my drugs. Well, if you cooperate. No, I ain't cooperating. How can I cooperate? How can I cooperate? They weren't even mine. That's the other individuals. I don't even know what to say. I picked them up. You have the GPS on my vehicle. You saw where I picked them up. It doesn't work that way. Later on, they end up finally giving me a bond. They gave me a bond, but I sat there for 6 months.
Ouch.
Yeah, I sat there for 6 months. I had to wait for the grand jury to come and indict me. Once they indicted me, then I was able to get then I could get the bond. I was able to get the bond. I was able to, and I forgot to tell you about this. I got on that phone to call Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Mama. Click.
Oh.
Hold on. She must have thought something. Mama, this is your son. Click. Next time I called, this call has been blocked for you're not.
Oh, wow. So Mom got the wake-up call.
I am your baby. I am your only son. What are you thinking? All during this time, too, I was with our estate. Forget. Why can I not think of the word? I was executor of the estate.
Oh, okay.
But I was also misabusing funds in that account. Well, my sister at that time, bless her heart, she told my mama, she said, no way. So I thought they're taking me to court for something. They took me in court, shackled, and I see my mama and my sister sitting there with an attorney. They got me removed from executor of the estate. How dare them? How dare you not pick up that phone to call me? How dare you? Hey, she's in addiction too, Mama. Hey, she's doing all this stuff too, Mama. You know, like all this. They got me. No, my sister was also going into recovery. My sister was trying to help my mom have a life. That wasn't my money anyways. That was my mother and father worked very hard for that. That was my mama's money.
That's right.
But at that time, you couldn't tell me that.
That was just still your state of mind.
Yeah. Entitlement.
Correct.
Entitlement. They owed me that.
But you're 6 months sober right now because you've been in jail for 6 months.
That was about 3 months into it.
Okay.
I was still playing the game in there a little bit.
Oh,
I wasn't, like I was still, I didn't have, I said, I'll never get out of here and go use. I'll never. Well, they gave me a bond. I called this bonding company. I can't get nobody to sign. I knew a man that got arrested. I told him, because I was working in the book, they let me out as a detail. I said, hey, I'm calling this bonding company. I just need you to sign the paper. Knowing very well, he signed the paper. They came and picked me up. They let me out. Well, I get ready to go back to that house. Mama's done rented that house out to somebody else.
So you're homeless.
I'm homeless. She won't pick up the phone. Guess what else she's done? They've moved to Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. I said.
So you're alone?
Nowhere to live. Nothing. So who do I call? I call the person I used to get all my drugs from. I end up 3 counties down. Get down there. I was high within just a couple hours. That was on February 13th that was on February 13th, 2019.
Okay.
Or no, 2020. COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, the world became COVID while I was locked up.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I get out and I'm seeing all these things happening, and then there's no jobs. There's nothing. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I get down there. Well, it only took 4 days. My sister fortunately picked up a phone. She got on the phone with Ashley York. They got on the phone with the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department gave me a ride from the counties to counties to counties and took me to Freedom Ministries Lighthouse on February 19th, 2020. I got there. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I'd walk like 14 miles. The people I was with abandoned me. I was on the side of the road. I spent the night in a Walmart. So that was just, I'd put myself in that with that addiction.
Yeah.
And I'd put myself back in that same circle. But
well, if I know what's about to happen, your life's about to change real big.
About to change real big. But I've got this really big case. I've got this really big thing that's happening. But I also went, okay, well, I can just ride this lighthouse out for just a little bit. And then they can help me with my case and all this. But at the lighthouse, they're very special people there. But they can also see how manipulative Todd was. How dare that woman, Ashley York, tell me what to do? How dare her? How dare her to tell me I got to get up and sweep and mop? How dare her tell me how to keep my life? How dare her tell me that I have a plan and a purpose? How dare her and Dad to make me do all these things that a normal person does? But I didn't do well there at first, and I was asked to leave. And I went into another program. I went into North Carolina, and I completed a 14-month program there. I stayed abstinent from drugs and alcohol, but I didn't get a lot of recovery in that. But the only reason I stayed 14 months there is because I got sentenced. My sentence was I had to go do what they call an RSAT program. I was very fortunate. The thing was where the narcotics were poured into that glass. They said it was this big deal, but really the lab, by the GBI lab, could not tell how much was what, where it came. It was part of the plea. They said, hey, here you go. You can, but we're going to give you 15 years probation. You're going to do right for 15 years. We're going to give you this fine, and you're going to do this RSAT program, and you're going to do this. And
so what is RSAT?
It's a residential substance abuse treatment thing in custody of the Department of Corrections.
Okay.
During that time, too, I thought, but I'd also worked it out because I was in a rehab, and that did help. That did help a lot. Because
that 14 months.
Yeah, well, it's the 14 months there, because they first said, we're going to give you 8 and you're going to do 5. You've already done a little bit of time. By the time you get to Jackson, which is diagnostic for men, you'll go through that, and then I'll be probably sent to a county camp somewhere. But I go, oh no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't want to. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to go to. But I ended up going. But since COVID had hit, it was unique through the Department of Corrections. They still sent us through Jackson. They still had to go. We had to go there and then go. But I had to turn myself in on April 19th, 2021. My sobriety date is April 20th, because I was still, even though I was in that other facility, I was taking some kratom.
Okay.
And if it wouldn't have been help with the counselors there to say, hey, Todd, that was still something. You say whatever your date you want to say, but you say this, but that's been my solid date is 4/20/21.
I love that.
So I went with that's no, and some people can still argue, tobacco use and stuff like that. But
I'm gonna give you a good pass on that one, because honestly, that's sold. Even though I'm a huge, I've nothing good to say about kratom, but because it is known to cause some problems, and but it's looked at by the DEA watch list as a heavy hitter. Mm-hmm. However, it is legal and it is sold in every gas station in all of the counties around here. Right. So in terms of it being considered, I can see how I would be sticking to that.
Right.
420.
Right. Yep. And that's been, and I really, that was from one of the counselors there in the RSAT program.
Yeah.
And so I went to this program, and after it's all said and done, the RSAT program was probably a little bit more difficult than it would have been if I would have just went to Department of Corrections and done the time, because I could have been out working, I could have gotten to a place, but I believe this that's where God put me to find something, because there was also some counselors that helped me. I met some good men in there. I'm a firm believer of this, too. The prison system has two kinds of people. We have people that we're just mad at, and we have people that we're scared of. They can all be through rehabilitation. I think that anybody has the willingness to change and can be changed if they're shown they're shown that you can change and pour a little love into them, and everybody can change. But,
that's right.
But I was there, and that pivotal moment was there. Even though I had that substance abuse, I'd not used, I'd say, like any hard drugs, any alcohol or anything. But it was on the 4th of July. I was there. We were walking around. We had these watermelons. And when I was trying to sell my watermelon, because you're always selling something inside prison for some soups, and I was trying to hang out with these guys, and I was like, what am I doing? Like I got too comfortable here. Like they're giving us some hot dogs and hamburgers, and I was like, thought that was the greatest thing ever, and this Coca-Cola, and I was like, I know that I can do better, but I'm not going to do better on my own. I need some help. And I had some counselors there, and I want to reach out to them this day and say, look, I'm still doing good. I haven't talked to them.
You should.
I haven't. I really am. You get to tell them about the peers thing. You get to tell them. I'm pretty excited, but there were some people that really poured into me there. But I got ready. So then there's always a discharge date. We kind of know when it is, and you kind of don't. But I didn't have a plan. My sister has started talking to me on the phone. I've started talking to my sister. And all she keeps telling me is this recovery and how God has changed her life. And at first I was like, yeah, okay. Well, just pick up the phone. And I'd saved some money. So she was still putting some money on my account. She was able to do that, and she was able to send. So there was still that part. I was still playing a little bit of manipulation, like, well, I'll just use my sister to not use her. That's the wrong word. She can get my money here. I can talk to her. She's my outside person. I call her like once a week. If anybody knows about this, she put $50 on the phone in 9 months. It took me 9 months to get the $50 on the phone. Some people use $50 in 2 days.
I'm sure.
So I just used a little bit, but she was my outside contact. And she told me, she said, well, why don't you go back to the lighthouse? I remember still sitting there. I was like, I'm not going back to the lighthouse. Nah, they told me to leave, and I went to that other place. I'm going back to North Carolina, up there with that church. They love me. I love them. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go be with them. Well, Department of Corrections says you can't cross the state line. You got to do all this paperwork. You should have done this a long time ago. I'm getting released in like 2 weeks. So I said, well, who am I going to call? Well, I kept telling them, I got to make an outside call, and they're sitting on my call list, and I got to call. I got to do all this stuff. So this lieutenant on a Saturday morning let me use a phone inside one of their offices, and I called Ashley York. You know what she does?
Fantastic.
And if everybody knows her, she picks up, hello? Hey, this is Todd. Hey, how are you? So I'm good. I was wondering, we were just talking about you. We've got a place if you want to come back. Do we need to come get you?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can get a ride. And she said her husband's name. She said, tell him hello. And I said, hey. She said, we'll see. She said, you still clean? I said, I'm still clean. Ashley's pretty to the point. And I said, I'm still clean. So anyways, that Thursday morning, they dropped me off. I got a ride with another inmate to Toccoa. Her father, who is the founder of the Lighthouse, picks me up. I'm like, well, I got to get to probation, and I got to get here and there. And you just have to know Pastor Joel, he's just full of love, too. He goes, I got to go get you something to eat. I was like, okay. So we go and eat. We get there. And in my head, I was like, I already have all this sobriety. I'm coming up on I'm coming up on 2 years of sobriety, or I'm coming up on 1 year of sobriety in April.
Okay.
This was on January the 6th, 2022. I get there and I said, well, it's a 9 to 12 month program. They shouldn't make me have to do all this work. They're going to make me do all this work. So there was still a little bit of me in there. I get there and they said, yeah, you're going to start back. Well, I was already here 3 months before. No, you're going to start over. You're going to do all this work. Step one, you're going to go get a sponsor. You're going to do all these things, all these requirements. You're going to follow the rules. And I remember Dan telling me, he said, nobody's ever came in this program and gave it 100% out of all the grants. He said, everything we've asked them to do. And I said, well, maybe I'll do that. And it's a community in there. We all rise together. We all fall together, but we all stay together. We're all men in recovery. We have them, but we all stay together. So I learned camaraderie. I learned working with a group. I learned that Todd's voice is not the most important voice. I learned that maybe sometimes if I would shut my mouth and open my ears and take suggestions, I can gain something not only in my brain but in my heart, and I can become a better person. Well, then they also took this old project manager, this guy with a little bit of entitlement. Man, I've managed $1 million jobs. They made me go to work at McDonald's.
That's really powerful.
This man, I had to go to work at McDonald's. But I said, you know what? Pastor talked to me, Pastor Joel, her father. He said, you're one of the first ones we're going to take down there. We've started this. We've got this where we're going to let y'all work down there. There's a lot of rules. We cannot be on phones. You cannot walk outside the property. I call it, it's funny, I call it the electric fence. We couldn't walk so far, but I abided by the rules. I learned how to take suggestions. I learned when to speak, when not to speak, when to be told to do something, to clean up after myself, to make my bed every day, to do all these things. I remember telling Joel, too, when he picked me up, I said, I think I'm ready to start dating. He said, well, let's get this program through first. I was like, no, I'm there because I know I'm ready to start dating. He said, well. And he started telling me about these other graduates that had gotten married, and they're now doing these great things and got all these families and all this stuff. And I was like, I'll never have a family, but I just want to get married. I'm not going to have any kids, not this age and all this. And but we got to, but I started doing what they asked for me. And I became a shift manager at McDonald's, and I worked there. And time came on, and it got to about my 9th month there, and I went, am I graduating? Well, you ain't ready. I've got all this time and all this. Well, have you done your life story? I don't want to do this life story. How long's it got to be? How old are you? 41, 42? I don't know. And she said, it needs to be 42 pages. So I had to start writing. She said, you got till next weekend to get it done because we're not going to graduate anybody till you get this done. Now, I was holding back my group. I was holding back men who had put in the work. I still had some of those thinking things. So I wrote this out, and it's very pivotal at the end of that life story, too, because it was on my birthday. And I wrote on there, I said, I can't believe that I've been through all this, and all these years now I have all that sobriety there. I've been through that RSAT program. Now I've put almost a year in here, and I don't know why I'm still here because now I've been sleeping in a bunk bed. Woe is me, right? Woe is me. I've been sleeping in a bunk bed with another man in the room for 36 months, like all this stuff, right? And I said, but I don't know. I felt like the Spirit led me right this. I went, but if I'm supposed to be here at this time next year, that's where God's supposed to have me.
That's
and
right.
guess what? I was there another year. I graduated January the 6th. Following that, they asked me to come on as a voluntary staff. I came on. Then they started really taking care, and I've started learning some things. They let me quit McDonald's and go to work for a local welding company. I got to go to work back there. So then I felt like, okay, now I'm doing something. I'm getting all this, and all this is happening. Well, then it came to the point like, I said, I'm ready to start dating. I want to meet somebody. To my dismay, when I threw that out there to them, they were like, no, you're ready. Oh, wait, for the first time, somebody since 2013 told me I'm ready. No, we're ready, but there's going to be stipulations. What do you mean? So there were stipulations. The person has to, I'm fine, but you're not going over there to spend the night. You're not. No, you have to come back here. You're not going to go.
Oh, you're going to date.
I'm going to date, but we're going to meet in a common area. We're not going to go back to her house. There, no, you can go in.
You're 15.
Yeah.
It's like being 15 and dating, and Dad and Mom have sat you down and said these are the rules.
But I never really dated the right way. I never really dated. I'd always went in with one expectation or this and that. And
was it great, though?
It's just been the most incredible. It's been the most incredible thing I've ever experienced in my life. I had to make a list. I made a list. That came back from the RSAT. And that counselor there told me, she said, I want you to write down from her hair color to her eye color to the way she walks, the way she talks, what she calls first in her life. And it was on a spiritual level. She got to put God first. And I said, man, I'm never going to find anybody. Because I even wrote on it, me. This is me. This is me. This is just me. I didn't want to date anybody who had ever been in recovery. I was scared. I think there was still this part, and I was still that part saying, well, what if something happened and they went back out? And I just,
right.
But who's going to understand this guy who is a felon and all these things? And I want a woman that knows God inside and out. And I even want, if she has children, because I'm not going to have children. If she has children, they'd be older. Maybe even girls, because I've always been raised around women, and I was like, and he said, because I can kind of talk to, and God placed that woman into my life.
That's fantastic.
God placed this woman into my life, and it has been the most incredible experience beyond this. And she told me one day, she said, Todd, so I'm working at the welding shop, and I said, I know there's going to be bigger and better things for us. I would like to maybe go to work in recovery. I would like to do these things. And she says, people are talking about you in rooms. You don't even know who they are, but they know who you are.
That's right.
I get fortunate. I get to go to the jail. Should not be able to go to the jail. I am blessed to be able to go to the jail. The sheriff, our sheriff, and the chief deputy, and our major for the jail.
That's right.
Signed off on that and lets me go into the jail. I talked to the men in the jail one night. I said, "This is right after conversation. Me and now it's fiance. We're getting married here."
Congratulations.
Thank you. I voiced it in the jail. I said, I would love for something to be able to happen one day to where I can help you men get out of here, get you a job, get you somewhere to go. Because I know how it is. They open those doors like they did to me up there at the prison. They open the door and say, bye. Bye.
And so guess what, Todd?
We're
doing it.
I know. And I got this call. And then I was told by Ashley, hey, come meet this guy. And then next thing I know, then y'all are having these meetings. She calls, she says, all these people were talking about you in this room, from the sheriff to you, to all these people that are saying,
that's right.
And now the person I'm working for, Mark, saying, we want you to come do this and be a part of this.
So now you're officially a part of the Healthy Georgia team. You are going to be the driver of our Community Connections bus.
Yes.
You are going to be working in peer counseling, which you
Yes.
actually are really already doing.
Right.
And now we are doing a program called Jail InReach, where we are planning exit strategies for inmates to have long-term sobriety and have treatment with MAT.
Yes.
Medication-assisted treatment. Our mobile unit will go to them.
Mm-hmm.
We're providing transportation so that people don't get discharged to homelessness.
Right.
And it's just a fantastic thing that you are a part of my team. And that just started 2 days ago.
Yes.
That you came on board with us. So congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. What it's going to, I just feel like this is what our community.
You asked for this, and it happened.
Yes.
So
spoke this into existence.
You sure did.
Spoke this into existence, and I have so many people that I could thank also, but they're. I'm kind of in awe with what's going on because I also said deep down inside, because I thought about, well, maybe I'll go back to work in this elevator. Now I'm going to have this family, right? Now I'm going to have these things. Now I want to be able to make a living to where they'll be taken care of, and now. But I said, should I go back in this elevator bit? Should I go back into like construction management? Should I start, think outside the box a little bit? But now this is going to be something. Not saying the financial part, but saying like I'm going to be able to now have a career. It's the first time I've been up. It hit me yesterday. I have a career again.
You have a career in something you're passionate about.
Passionate. There's never a day's work.
Yeah, I don't feel like I work with what I do, which is pretty fantastic.
Right.
I just get to help people every day and make differences in people's lives. So you're a difference maker. That's what you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. This is the Clearly Well podcast, and we're here letting people speak about mental health and substance use disorder and how that comes together in one space. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to state that please do not substitute this podcast for professional therapy or treatment. The content shared here is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We do ask our listeners to respect the diverse experiences of individuals and refrain from passing judgment. If you or someone you know needs professional help, please seek the guidance of a registered and qualified mental health professional. Clearly Well is brought to you by Healthy Georgia and produced by CNC Media.